Hello guys, it is Gate of Theories here, and before we go any further in this video, there will be major spoilers for the brand new Pixar movie, Soul. So, if you haven't seen it, go on to Disney+, watch it because it is an amazing Pixar film, and then come back to this video, and then we can discuss what is happening here. So, hopefully all those people have gone. Now, let's talk about the new movie, Soul, and what an amazing film it is. Honestly, I think it's Pixar at its best again. Recently in years, Pixar has been going slightly downhill, but I think Soul is just the beginning of some great new films that we're all going to get. And of course, Soul really pulled on our emotional strings. Who didn't get emotional at the end when Joe got to return back to Earth? And of course, when 22 finally went down to Earth to be someone's soul. And that left me wondering, at the end of the film, we saw 22 go down to Earth, finally becoming someone's soul, but we never found out whose soul she became. So that's what we're going to try and find out today, because knowing Pixar and their love of Easter eggs and the entire idea of the Pixar theory that every single film is connected, there's a very good chance that we actually know who the person is who 22's soul ends up becoming. So, let's try and work it out. But before we go any further, please make sure that you click that red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified every time we make a brand new video. Now, to work out whose Soul 22 would be, we need to work out where Soul really fits into the Pixar theory. Now, right now, it's not exactly clear, as the movie literally only came out less than a week ago. But from what we've seen in the movie, it needs to be from around the modern era, so around similar times to where we are right now. It isn't exactly clear where Soul takes place in the Pixar theory yet, as there is moments of modern technology like mobile phones, but also more or less advanced systems such as using chalk and blackboard when Joe is teaching. So I'd say it's anywhere between really the 1950s and upwards, as in the Pixar universe, technology can be a bit ahead of time, such as the Omnidroid in The Incredibles. That means we're looking at any Pixar character from any of these few movies. The Incredibles, Toy Story, Finding Nemo / Dory, Ratatouille, Up, Inside Out, and Coco. And since there's 2 Incredibles and 4 Toy Stories, that narrows it down to any female from 12 different films in the Pixar universe. Seems pretty easy, right? Well, definitely not. As seen by Joe himself, finding the spark of a soul does not necessarily lead to the soul's overall purpose in life, so it's unlikely we know what type of personality based off a purpose 22 will become. This isn't helped by the fact that at the end of the film, we don't get to see what 22's missing piece of personality is that the film's been trying to locate us to. It just turns complete, so we have no idea what she'll end up growing up to be. So that kind of rules out any of the older females in these Pixar films that we've mentioned. For example, it rules out Riley's mum, Miguel's parents, Elastigirl, Edna, or anyone who isn't Violet from The Incredibles. Colette, which basically rules out Ratatouille completely. But that still leaves many young females in the Pixar universe who lived around this time that could easily have been born from 22. So, the possible candidates are Violet from The Incredibles, Darla from Finding Nemo, Riley from Inside Out, Bonnie from Toy Story 3 and 4, Molly from Toy Story 1 to 3, Emily from Toy Story 2, Daisy from Toy Story 3, Harmony from Toy Story 4, who is the antiques owner's granddaughter. As you can see, there's a lot from Toy Story. Ellie when she's young from Up, and finally Boo from Monsters Inc. Now Monsters Inc. does take place thousands of years in the future, however when they travel back through the doors to the human world, according to the Pixar theory, they are travelling back in time, and Boo's room is full of Easter eggs which hint to the time period we discussed before. For example, she has a Jessie doll hinting it's a similar time to where Toy Story is set. So, we've now narrowed it down to 11 possibilities. Let's get rid of some. So to do this, let's take a closer look at 22 and what makes her go down to Earth in the first place. Well, at the beginning of the film, we see she's pretty moody, she's had loads and loads of mentors, and it doesn't look like she could ever go down to Earth. But by the end of the film, she's a lot more open-minded, as when she's travelled in Joe's body on Earth, she sees the wonders and beauties of the planet, and that inspires her to go down. So we're looking for something like that. So let's look at these 11 possibilities and then see which one is 22 by crossing them off. So first of all, we have Violet from The Incredibles. Well, 22 was looking for her spark, and you know, Violet with her powers, yeah, right, okay, let's get serious now. Well, we can easily get rid of Violet from the list. Sorry, 22 doesn't look like you're going to be a super. Violet spends the whole of the first movie being very closed in, and then eventually opens up by the end, as symbolized by her hair over her face and her powers of invincibility and force fields. As seen when 22 becomes Jo, she is a very outgoing person who is open to the world. That's one of the reasons why she ends up realizing that living on Earth isn't even that bad. That is the spark. So from a young age, Violet doesn't fit that personality. She is very nervous and closed off instead, unlike 22. Next, we have Darla from Finding Nemo. Again, Darla is very brash at the world. She takes everything for granted compared to 22, who was in awe and wonder of everything she saw in the world and was very careful with everything, which is the complete opposite of Darla. I mean, there's a reason why the fish are scared of her, because she literally just takes everything and just ruins it completely. Doesn't really sound like what 22 was like when she was in Jo's body. Next, we have Molly from the Toy Story films. Now, we can't really judge her from when she's a baby, so we'll have to judge her from when she's a teenager in Toy Story 3. And there isn't much we know about her, and she clearly is only interested in certain things. I really don't see 22 being her spark, to be honest. Maybe 22 at the beginning of the film when she's quite moody, but when she goes down to earth, probably not. Next, we have Emily. Now, we don't know much about Emily, apart from the fact that she was Jesse's owner, and the theories of her maybe being Andy's mum. She was very loving to Jesse, although the only scene we see of Jesse and Emily is the scene by the autumn leaves. This could be a direct link to 22's wonder and awareness of the world, which is symbolized by the dropping of leaves in that brilliantly directed scene in Soul, but I reckon that's just a coincidence. Next, we have the characters Daisy and Harmony from Toy Story. These are two characters who we really don't know much about. Daisy, of course, was Lotso's old owner. Judging by what Big Baby reacts to, clearly she was a loving mum to them. And Harmony liked playing with Gabby Gabby, but both can easily go off track and move on quickly. But we really don't know much about any of them, so I reckon this disproves them, and I reckon they're not 22. Now, we've narrowed it down to 4 very likely possibilities. We've got Riley, Bonnie, Ellie when she's young, and Boo. Now, all 4 of these possibilities could very easily be 22. Let's take a look at them. So first we have Riley. Firstly, pizza. The film makes it very clear that pizza is very important to Riley, as she can't have broccoli on it, and it has to be perfect. 22 is exactly the same, and that personality trait seems to be likely to carry on and not really develop. Riley is driven by joy as her main emotion, and by the end of the film, 22 wanted to go down to Earth because of the happy feelings and joys she experienced on Earth. So it makes sense for her body's main emotion to be joy. Riley suffers from depression throughout the film Inside Out, which is similar to what 22 feels like when she becomes a lost soul. Plus, the director and writer of both Soul and Inside Out was Pete Docter, and both films share many similarities. Both are based off the growth and development of human life, and Soul began development in 2016 just after Inside Out's release, so could easily have been originally developed and based off the core concepts of Inside Out. So Riley very likely could be 22. Next, we have Bonnie. Now, she is very curious about the world around her, and this could just be down purely to her age, or it could be because of her soul. However, the film goes into detail about how the spark of the soul is all that's needed at the beginning to develop a purpose. So Bonnie's curiosity could easily reflect 22's. Next, we have Ellie when she's young from the movie Up. Pete Docter also directed and wrote Up, and Ellie is very curious as a child about the world and its wonders. That's how she gets Carl involved in the first place. When 22 reaches Earth, she is in awe of its beauties and curious about discovering more about it. That could very easily be the missing piece from the soul that we didn't know what it was. Ellie then grows up to want to explore with Carl, and that's her purpose, which could very easily have become 22's overall purpose in life. And finally, we have Boo from Monsters, Inc. Now, Monsters, Inc. was Pete Docter's story as well, and he directed it. There is many links to this. It would be fitting that Boo is 22 if you believe in the Pixar theory, as 22 has all the knowledge of the universe before she enters the Earth. Even if she forgets it all when she comes down to Earth, she was practicing it for thousands of years. The Pixar theory heavily emphasizes that Boo connects everything with being the witch from Brave. It would be fitting, as it would show how Soul truly fits into the Pixar theory, as 22 experienced everything and the great before, and could easily have found a way to unlock her powers and the knowledge that Boo needs to become the witch, considering 22 has experienced all the great mentors in life. But currently, so far, we've only been focusing on the characters we know a lot about that are from a certain time period. Instead, maybe we should be focusing on the geography side of it, because the film gives us more information than you would actually think, even though it doesn't specifically show what the missing personality trait for 22 is. When Jo lets go of 22 and she finally flies to Earth at the end, the film shows us what side of Earth she is heading to as the Earth beacon pulls her towards a certain place. Now, I'm no great geographer, I don't claim to be, so I used good old Google Earth to pinpoint exactly where 22 was heading at the end of the scene. Judging by these curved bits of land and sea, the Earth is currently showing the continent of Asia, which narrows it down a lot, as the curved bits represent the Middle East, and so far none of the characters we've looked at have been Asian. The film then further zooms into the Earth along with 22, so I did the exact same thing on Google Earth, and due to the atmosphere it became harder to pinpoint exactly where in Asia 22 was heading to. However, on both Google Earth and the film, it shows some snow on mountains and 22 landing to the left of them, which places 22 around the Chinese region of Tibet. Honestly, you don't know how long that took me. So, it looks like 22 is going to land in an Asian region, and the globe places it around the region of Tibet in West China. This would firstly make sense for 22 to travel to, as Tibet is a very spiritual place that practices Buddhism, which seems very fitting for what 22 has been through in the Great Before, especially since she often visited the Lost Souls area, where souls came to when they meditated, and she was taught by great philosophers such as Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Abraham Lincoln, Albert Einstein, Vincent van Gogh, Mother Teresa, Joan of Arc, Martin Luther King, Marie Curie, Queen Elizabeth I, Pablo Picasso, Thomas Edison, and a lot more. And you can actually see all of these famous people on the wall in 22's room. It's honestly amazing how many different people they added in. Now, this doesn't mean that the characters who we mentioned before can't be 22, but it hints more likely that 22 grows up to be a young Asian girl. Now, currently, there is no main young Asian girl in any of the main Pixar films, and the only Asian girl currently in the Pixar universe who has a predominant role is the mother from the Pixar short Bayo. Now, before anyone says the short shouldn't be included in the Pixar theory, well, I'd love to change your mind. Considering one short called Jerry's Game literally sees the character Jerry from Toy Story 2 in it, and Toy Story 4 has lots of toys found in the secret room in the antique store that have all appeared in the different Pixar shorts, it seems likely that these Pixar shorts are definitely part of the overall Pixar theory. Now, if you've seen Incredibles 2, then you've most likely seen the short Bayo as it appeared before the movie. That short shows a young Chinese mother who lives in Canada who is beginning to separate from her son as she suffers from empty nest syndrome. Then one of her dumplings begins to come to life and represents her son, and she becomes a mother for it for a while till they distance again. By the end of the short, she learns how to be close to her son. The mother gets a second chance with the dumpling to do motherhood. Soul ends up giving Jo a second chance, which shows similarities in the storyline, as well as 22's many second chances with the different mentors of how to become a fully developed soul. The depression the mother faces relates to 22's lack of purpose near the end of the film, which relates to Bayo as the mother feels like she has lost her purpose as the son doesn't need her anymore, which currently was her purpose. Just as some more traits, the mother in Bayo loves food, as she literally symbolizes her son through food, which we know 22 becomes very interested in when she's on Earth. And the shape of Bayo looks very similar to the model used for 22. They could even have been based off the same design, and this could represent how the mother is trying to re-find her soul throughout the short, so her representation of the dumpling replicates what her soul looks like. I mean, just look at the character Bayo, and then look at the character of 22. Like, they literally look the exact same. So guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, make sure that you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do you agree with these picks? Do you reckon that the mother from Bayo might be who 22 grows up to be? Or do you reckon it's one of those other Pixar characters that we've mentioned before? It might be no one. It might be a character who we haven't met before yet. Make sure that you leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section and what your thoughts of the film Soul were. And as always, we've been here at Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.